Hello, and welcome to the Conscious Communion podcast, where we traverse through the inner dwellings of the human experience through conversation. I'm your host, Danae. Join me as we explore the interconnection of creativity and community. Today, I have with me Chelsea, also known as Amara Ritual. She's a creative, intuitive guide living by the guidance of both her heart and soul. She works with the inner alchemy within to help others be led back to themselves. Chelsea has been led through the channeled essence of her ancestors to be a bridge towards visionary self-expression. She's an advocate for human and female empowerment and believes that true liberation starts from the inside out. Her offerings are a culmination of her own practices, teachings, and life experience. Here is Amara Ritual.
For the beautiful opening and introduction.
Yes, of course. Yes. I'm so grateful to have you here. And I think it's fun to note that we were connected through social media. And that is just one of the fun, nuanced things that can come into our lives through the technological world. And I'm so grateful to connect with you now face to face, in this 2D dimension. But I'm just so grateful.
Still in the virtual world, but still connected.
Connected nonetheless. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I know it's funny because we were both talking about when we stumbled across each other online, it felt like we both felt the pull, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need to know this woman.
Yeah.
I feel something here, right?
Totally. And I remember the first post that I ever saw, you were dancing and your movement just felt so in flow with nature and the essence that speaks within us as feminine thought, expressive, you know what I mean? Like visionaries that are really seeking to lean into what spirit has to speak through us. And I saw that through your dance. And I just wanted to ask, like, how has that part of you, because dance is such a beautiful expression, how has that helped you really lean into the inner alchemy within? I know that's like a loaded question, right? That's just that spirit that was the question. That wasn't mine. So here we go.
I owe most of it to dance, to movement. Dance is an ancient medicine. So music, dance, storytelling, all of these things have been with us as humans since the beginning of time. And I think that aspect of movement can often be overlooked. It's interesting because when I was a child, I wanted to be a backup dancer.
I love that.
I would dance in my room almost every day and listen to music, and not only for fun, but especially when times got tough, right? Even as a little girl, I turned to dance, and it's almost like intuitively, I just inherently knew. And it's funny because I'm half Persian. My mom was born in Iran, and Sufism is like ancient Persian mysticism. And I know that it's a big part of my lineage. Is this, and dance and movement and sound play a big part in Sufism. And every culture, every lineage has traces back to music and movement, right? It's not just some, it's all across the board. So I think that it always was inherently within me. And then how it played a role in terms of my own inner power, my own inner alchemy, the work that I do now, it saved my life. It really is, it's a place where I can go to feel it all and to feel safe in feeling it all and to feel empowered in myself. And it takes me to these higher states of being. It really connects me to my creative expression and to my soul and my heart. Like I feel my heart space literally opening when I dance. And I feel like probably all dancers can relate to that feeling. And it's powerful, powerful stuff. You know how everything is energy, everything's constantly in flow, in motion. And movement is one powerful way that we can tap into that and alchemizing the energy within our body, right? So a lot of times when I dance, or even when I post videos of myself dancing, I'm not just dancing. I am telling stories. I am sharing my emotions. I'm sharing codes, ancient codes that run through our bodies, right? This feminine inner power that wants to be expressed through us and has been trying to be expressed through many of us for many, many, many generations. So it's powerful stuff.
It truly is. And I feel the potency of your medicine and the way that you express yourself through that medium, that beautiful power. And we are sisters in dance, and I love that. And I hope that one day we can dance together in the flesh, and I feel like we will. So I look forward to that day for sure. But, just so that we can get a better feel, I would love for you to really share about the name Amara Ritual and where that comes from, where that origin story begins.
Yes. So Amara Ritual came through. There was a point in my life where I was getting more into meditation, and I was doing a lot of writing, and I was really practicing my channeling, right? And my free writing. And there was one day where I just let any preconceived ideas of what wanted to come through, and I just started writing, even if it didn't make sense. So all of these words started coming through, words that were not in English per se. And one of those words was Amara, which is Sanskrit, and it means everlasting, eternal, and immortal, essentially. And so that, to me, was like my higher self. It was Amara to me is not only am I Amara, but we are all Amara, right? So it's this is how the word came to be, and it resonated so much that for my business name, Amara Ritual, it's always I can come back to that and remember, like, no matter what, we are everlasting, we truly are. And I think that process of even channeling that word and those words through, I realized, and it helped me remember, oh, there's more happening here. There's more than meets the eye, and we're able to perceive more and gather information from someplace. And it's really powerful.
Truly, truly. That is so beautiful. I got chills when you said that. And I think channeled writing specifically is it is powerful. That's another tool, right? And in the embodiment practices that we can alchemize our own experiences with, and with writing specifically, I know that's been like a full-on portal for me. And so are you still writing and using that as a practice, as a tool for medicine? And if so, how are you utilizing that as a part of your medicine?
Yes, I write almost every day. Again, you go back to the things that you like to do as a kid. And those are always the things that we come back to as adults that continue to light us up. So yeah, it was something that I used to love to write when I was a kid. I used to also want to be a journalist. I wanted to be a backup dancing journalist.
I love
it. But I do. I write every day, and a lot of times I just allow, like you said, free writing, allow what wants to pour through. And sometimes I'll go back and edit. And it's true, some days it'll flow and it'll just pour out. And so other days it just doesn't feel like the words want to come through quite as easily. So I also honor that, right? I try not to be hard on myself. And I know that there's kind of a flow when it comes to this. I do a lot of writing for not just myself, but for collectively, like what we're experiencing. I think that part of why I'm here is to act almost as like a guide or a bridge and channel through, like, this is what's going on and how do we work within this, and how do we remember these universal laws, this ancient wisdom that's available to all of us to help us navigate this journey that we're on right now. So that's a lot of why I write, is I like to share what's really present in the moment, and also information that I've experienced on my own journey for others that I think could be helpful or they could relate to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And yeah, I think that it's vital right now. It's vital. And words and storytelling, as you mentioned earlier, is one of the most ancient forms of communication. Like, dance is a form of communication. It's a form of sharing our stories through our bodies. But with writing specifically, there's such an open dialogue with spirit and how it moves through us on a page, or back in the day on canvases. And it's really an incredible craft. So thank you for honoring that and honoring your wisdom and seeing it and allowing it to come through, because it's not always easy to let it come through. It's not always easy. And I honor you in that, because sometimes in sitting in this open-handed posture is difficult. It can be difficult to have those open hands and just allow whatever needs to come through. So I honor you in that.
Yeah. I think some people make it look easy, but I think the behind the scenes, like, writer's block is real. Or some days it comes through more than others, and just honoring that has been a real one of my journeys, honoring that. And it's like, it's true, with anything.
Totally. It really is. I go in and out of writing every day, and I've been doing it now for almost a month and a half. And this morning I had writer's block, but yesterday it was like just easy, just pouring out, and it was so funny. This morning it was just block. I'm just taking some deep breaths and just being patient with myself, being loving and being kind. And because I think it's so important for folks to hear, how do you show loving kindness and compassion and grace for you when you're feeling that friction within the mind and in the body? Because it comes, it's everywhere when you're feeling that. So how do you handle that for yourself?
Well, I am human, right? So I'm not perfect, but I think that everything's a practice, right? And I think that once we have awareness of something, then we can put that into practice. So I think it's true. It's like, yes, I get frustrated, but it's not beating myself up about getting frustrated. It's like, okay, it's cool that I'm frustrated. This is all right. And that we have awareness that I'm doing this, and this is what's happening.
Yeah.
So I think the awareness is the first step. And then the more that you come back, when you come back to that place and you have the awareness, the more that you're able to just accept it. And instead, then you notice over time, instead of beating yourself up, you say, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a walk. And maybe I'll come back to this and it'll be better. And if not, I'll work on it tomorrow, because I know after so many times of doing this, the flow always comes back. It'll always come back.
Totally.
And it's okay. So I think it's a practice. And I think that awareness is powerful.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah. It's funny, lately I've been reminding myself of my humanness. It's more than usual. Like, I think, it's come up quite frequently, and it's like, it's okay. You're a part of nature. And then so I try to be cognizant and bring myself back to this space of remembrance of like, okay, what am I like in nature right now? And like thinking of like something that I can visualize and like relate to, like what in nature is mirroring this thing that I'm feeling,
Yeah.
And I know that you live in a beautiful place. You live in Seattle, Washington, and you live accessible to nature. And you've left, right? You moved recently. Am I correct with that?
Yes, I was living in Hawaii for a period of time.
Wow.
And I'm actually headed back to Hawaii on
Are
Sunday.
you? Yay! To move, or are you just going back to visit?
I'm going to visit, yeah. But Seattle has been like my home base. I grew up here. And it's true. It's like, especially when I came back from Hawaii, I was like, no matter where I live, I have to be connected to nature. And it's so vital and so important, but it's true, I mean, when we are in close relationships to nature, we do remember the cycles, and we do remember we are cyclical. And I think that helps us understand that we don't have to show up the same every day. I always think about that. I always think about, you don't tell a tree to stop shedding its leaves in the fall.
It's so true. It's so true.
So it's important, and I think nature is one of our biggest teachers. That's one of the messages that keeps coming through, is like we are cyclical, and like the answers aren't far. They're right in front of our face. But I think once we take, and they're not that complex either.
No, they're not. We make it so much more complicated than it needs to be.
So it's like once we come back to these, like I like to call them like universal laws that are inherent in like the smallest of atoms to like the infinite universe, right? You see these patterns that are inherent in everything. And I think that coming back to those truths, if you want to call it, I think is really like where we can create like sustainable change, and also have grace for ourselves as ever changing, ever evolving, cyclical beings, just like the seasons, just like everything around us.
So good. That's such a good word. And yeah, I'm curious to know how you integrate your practices with nature, because I know you do that, and I know that you go and you are intentional with your time with the earth. So what does that look like for you? Like, what is your ritual and your medicine time with the earth? Like, what does that mean to you? How does it fill your cup? And how would you recommend maybe someone who is listening to, embark on that journey for themselves?
Yeah. I think getting outside at least once a day and like feeling the fresh air on you is very important. I go on walks every single day, and I'm not just going on walks, like I literally am soaking up everything around me. And I love to dance outside. I love to dance barefoot. I love to walk outside barefoot. I love to feel the mud and the dirt below my feet. Like I love to put my hands in the sand and play with it and feel it, and feel the breeze on my face. And maybe this sounds cheesy, but but it's true. Like that, I think is one of the most healing things we can do as people. And, you know, I was an interior designer for many years. I designed interior spaces. And one of the biggest things was that we spend so much of our time indoors. And that I think is contributing to so much of our, I guess you could say, feelings of feeling unbalanced, feelings of depression, feeling kind of cooped up, right? It's like we got to get outside, no matter no matter if it's raining. Even in Seattle, it rains so often. We got to get outside. And it's funny because when I moved to Hawaii, I felt like I was called there in order to deepen a connection with the earth.
Mm.
And I went on this really transformative period where I really was connecting to the earth every single day in different ways. And it was interesting because I almost felt like I started becoming that I cultivated this relationship with her in a way that I felt like she was starting to channel through me. Because we're not separate, right? We're all connected. It's just the process of how connected do we want to be? How much do we want to put into that? And the more that you practice that, things start happening. Things start opening up, and you start noticing things, that you start looking at the world differently. You start noticing all of the beings and animals that are living near you. You start to sense things. The trees and the plants start communicating with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you see life completely different. And you really do see how interconnected everything and everyone is. So I think that connecting with the earth is not only beneficial for us as human beings and our health and our wellness, but it's also really pivotal at this time. It's really important because the way that we've been operating as humans it's not sustainable.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think even just that relationship with nature is how we regenerate a new way of being, how we have the opportunity. And how lucky are we? How lucky are we that that's the call to connect more with the earth and her rhythms, and to be more in touch and in tune with what she has to speak to us. Like that's the best gift ever. You know?
Exactly. And you don't have to be running around bare feet like a hippie outside, right? Like
you can, it's great.
I recommend it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I just went to a pottery class last week, and even just feeling the clay within my hands, that connection will really open something up within me, really like primal, really beautiful. And I was like, wow, if only everyone could feel this wet clay in their hands to mold and make and create out of it. So there's so many ways, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, there are so many ways, because each one of us, I know that so much of your work is bringing us back to ourselves, right? So it's how we are also unique, and then we each get to find what fills us up. So how do you take someone through that process of figuring out what calls them, what speaks to them, how they can alchemize their own inner experience and their own inner world?
Well, it's a process of deconditioning from everything we've been told our whole life, right? Others' expectations, what society expects of us. And it's about getting clear on what do you want? What do we want for ourselves? Maybe for our community. We can often look at maybe things in our life that are not working, right? Or what do we truly, what lights us up truly? What is our heart calling us towards? Even that simple act of like being able to tune into your intuition and your heart and what it's telling you, it's so subtle. So even just learning how to create that connection, to be able to hear the nudges and whispers of your soul, because everyone hears it, but I think it can be so subtle sometimes, and I think it can be very vulnerable, and it takes a lot of courage to act on it. So it's like once we get clear on what that is, without all the noise from everything around us, then it's a process of coming back to ourselves and really embracing the truest parts of us in whatever way or form. Like what lights you up? For me, it's dancing, right? One way is dancing. And when we continue to connect back with what lights us up, that's where the alchemy is. And we start to gain this inner power and this courage to make those tough decisions, to make those vulnerable choices, that we can then become this real co-creator of our life. Because I think that for many of us, it sounds so beautiful to be like, yes, I want to do this and I want to do that, and this is what I want for myself. But I think a lot of people don't talk about the courage that it takes to actually make the active steps towards doing that. And I think that's where the inner power comes through. And along with this deconditioning, I mean, we carry so much within ourselves that's not even our own. That's like from our lineage, that's been passed down through us, that our cells remember. So some of these traumas or fears or things that we're working through, or we they're not even ours to begin with. We carry them, and we do have the power to transmute that. Like, I really truly believe that at this time we are the cycle breakers. We are the ones that are giving birth to this I don't want to say new way of being, but this way of being that we're coming back to, that we've been so removed from, that I think a lot of us are being called to really step up and be the way showers of this time, because we truly are co-creators. And a lot of the time it's getting out of our own way or doing the healing work that really allows us to step into that part of ourselves.
That's so good. It's so good. I've been very much working through, and it's interesting. You think you've transmuted something, and then an old program like comes back up. And if you're not thinking about it, you're like, what? Wait, what? I like totally sidebarred, and you're just like, I didn't even know that was happening until maybe you take an actual step back and you're like, oh, whoa, and just having grace for yourself and compassion and realizing, okay, I'm just a part of nature. I'm just a human. It's okay. We're learning, and what we don't know, we can't expect ourselves to know. We can come back to the remembrance after we've learned it, but without that context, we can't shame ourselves for the unknown. Yeah. And so what you said, that just resonated so deeply for me, because it's been happening recently for me where these it's almost like these little dark spirits, like, oh, like, I know this is not mine. I thought I worked through this. And it's like, it's like this constant opportunity, right? It's like this constant invitation to dance with the depths of the dark and the light and the inner workings of it all.
Yeah. And like culturally, we've been raised to think, okay, once I do that, I'm going to check it off my list. Okay, I'm beyond that. I've healed that. I'm good to go. But I'm just seeing this image of a spiral, and it's like, no. Like these things, we might have to revisit them multiple times. And that's not bad. That's the reality. And I think that's where the inner power comes in. It's just like inner power is also being okay with that, having grace for yourself when that happens, and coming back to your tools and things that you know will get you through.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep chipping away, because it's true. It's like, I think that there's this idea that once I get to this place, I will feel complete.
Totally.
It just keeps going and going. And so it's like we will always be on this cycle, a cycle of sorts that will connect to another cycle of sorts to another cycle. So how do we progress through the cycle as empowered individuals? That is the key.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good. That is so good. And so how would you suggest to someone to, to keep going through the cycles? I know we've really revisited this, but I feel like this conversation keeps flowing, and like these new little tidbits of information keep coming out. So I'm going to just prod you a little bit more, because I feel like Spirit's like, okay, but there's more, there's more here. Like, how can we continue? It is such a dance.
It's a dance. It is. And I think that a big thing is our awareness of, okay, this is the way, this is, again, those universal laws. We are cyclical. This is part of the process, right? Mm-hmm. I think too, surrendering, releasing judgment, really got to surrender. That practice of surrendering, it's not easy, right? When we surrender, this feeling, a lot of times we feel like we're not in control. Maybe there's like a void that we're moving through. Mm-hmm. And getting comfortable with being in that discomfort, I think is something that's a practice. And what the last thing is surrendering. And then, will you remind me your question one more time, because it came through and then it left?
Yeah, of course. So I was just prodding again. So how do we continue with those cycles? How do we continue to have grace for ourselves, really, and just let go? So you mentioned surrendering.
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. It's coming back now.
Of course.
Our emotions, our emotions are a big one. I think that, again, culturally, we have been conditioned to suppress a lot of our emotions, or maybe be hard on ourselves when things come up. And our emotions are the key. The key is in feeling them, even if you don't know why. So there's so many days where I feel like crying and I don't know why. And it's coming through. Our emotions are a way of moving things through our body. Our body and our emotions have a really, 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 they know what they're doing. It's a system that a lot of times we need to get out of its way and let them come through. And I think, so surrendering, feeling into our emotions, and also remembering to tap into our joy, tap into those things that make us feel expansive, that light us up, that make us feel empowered, no matter what that is, because that is the key, right? You gotta feel it. And then when we feel it, and then we still, even when we're in the depths of the darkness, feeling it, when we still have hope and are able to come through that and find our joy, that's the alchemy, right? And, I'm seeing this image of almost this black hole. It's this black hole, all this energy is going into this black hole. And it's to me, I believe that this energy just comes out the other side and it's created into something else. And so I think that those physical experiences that happen also happen within us. Within our own bodies, within our emotions. So I think it's just learning how to work with that and not against that. And just remembering it's part of the process, especially right now. Right now, all of us, everything that we are all, there's a rug and it's being shaken, and everything below that rug, all the dust, everything that we didn't want to look at is coming up to be seen, personally and collectively.
1,000%.
So how do we find the tools to move through that and know that it's all part of the process?
Acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This, through a couple other conversations that I recently just had, one of the things that has just been, it's almost been like just a visual mantra as of late. It's closed fist and just like releasing, just like it doesn't need to be, you don't need to keep such a tight fist of it, like on anything. It's this attachment of sorts that we get so consumed by these things that whether they're uncomfortable or comfortable, and we want to make them ours. And rather than making them ours and holding them so close to us, we can just let go. Just
Yeah.
like water. You know, you were talking about water earlier, and it's just this like the current, right? It's like this, and I'm sure Hawaii was such a beautiful reminder of just this ever flowing current of being surrounded on an island, right? You're not only are you on an island where there's a body of water completely surrounding you, but there's waterfalls everywhere, and it's just this ever ebbing flow of the current. You're just safe to be in the current.
Yeah, exactly. And it's true. You mentioned holding on, right? We want to hold on because it feels safe, where it feels known. And it's true, you know, we're all human. We're all learning. We're all learning how to do this. And, you know, it's on those days where I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Why? You know, and I beat myself up. And it's like remembering that it's okay to feel this way and that we're not supposed to feel the same every single day. And that is part of, I think, our deconditioning, even that alone, right? Yeah.
Totally. And we can't, growth is not comfortable, right? Like we look at like nature and its forms of metamorphosis, and it's like, that doesn't look comfortable. Like fully changing, you know, from a caterpillar to a butterfly, like fully changing form. Like that is not comfortable. But for us to do the same, it's not going to be comfortable.
No. No. Yeah. You know, I wish I could say it's always comfortable and breezy, but
Right? It's not the
sometimes
case.
it's not the case.
Yeah. Right?
But, you know, it's true. It's like I've gotten to the point in my life where I've gone through so many cycles that I have, when I'm in that discomfort, I always know, okay, my contraction is leading me to a greater expansion. That is like what keeps me, you know, going. And because I know wholeheartedly, I've gone through this so many times, I'm like, this is how it works. This pendulum has got to swing, you know? And I think that it's easy for a lot of us to get caught up in what's happening to us. And I think something that really switched for me was really seeing this is happening for me. And, you know, it doesn't have to necessarily even be physical things. It's like emotional things as well. But for example, like this year, I had this, I had a period of like 2 weeks where I was laid off from my job. My car was stolen. This man broke my heart, all of these things, right? And I remember I was on my hands and knees and I was like, I can't take any more. What is happening? What is happening? I was just like, I literally was in my eyes at the lowest I'd been in a long time, just dealing with all of these stressors and experiences. But I knew, I was like, everything that's leaving my life right now is because I am creating and calling in something even more expansive. And I knew and I trusted. I was like, no matter how painful this is, feel everything, but know what's coming is even better. And what came in blew away any expectations that I could even dream up, right? Like I ended up starting my business. I met this beautiful, amazing man. All of these things started like kind of, it was like I had reached this void where it was like I had all this room to create and be like, okay, everything left that was not wasn't meant to be. It didn't even feel good anymore. It was time. You gotta let it go. And if you sometimes don't choose to let it go, the universe has a funny way of removing it for you.
So true. So true, right? That's part of the grasp, right? It's like, okay, you're not going to do this. You're going to learn the hard way now. I gave you the opportunity to let it go, but here we are.
Exactly. And it's like, you're calling in more freedom, you're calling in more travel, you're calling in a relationship. We're going to get rid of this job. You're going to meet this person. You're going to be traveling. You're going to start your business. And it was like all of these things that I was calling in. It was like I had to make space, and everything was removed. And in that moment, I think a lot of times we can reach this point of, why is this happening to me? But it's like, why is this happening for me? And always knowing that no matter what part of your cycle you're in a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so good. Just like the moon, right? We're constantly phasing in and out of these waning and waxing. And it's just this beautiful ebb and flow. It just is. That's all I see. It's just this current. It's this ever flowing current. And we get to just ride it out, and just really so much of it is like, are you going to choose to kick and scream along the way? Are you going to grasp at these branches that have thorns on them? Right? Or are you going to just like lay on your back and just let the current take you? It's like,
and at least you're back kicking and screaming. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Let the current take you while you're screaming. That's all right.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be pretty, but at the least time, just let the current take you.
Yeah.
No. Here we go.
Here we go.
That's true. I think there's a lot of talk about manifestation, and I like to call it co-creation. It's like, I think there's all of this bells and whistles around manifestation, and everyone wants to experience that and be co-creators of their life. But at the same time, I think what people don't talk about is a huge part of the creation process is allowing things to be removed or let go, what's no longer in alignment. And also, when you're in the void space of what was and what is coming, being in that void space is not comfortable. And I think that's where a lot of us quickly maybe scramble to get out of that space. And instead of using that and seeing that as an integral part of the creation process, and knowing that that's been flowing down the stream is the void as well. And that's a lot of the work that I like to do is help people through that and feel empowered when they're in those stages, because it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when you will feel that void.
Yeah. And you really took yourself on that journey. I mean, leaving a job, I wanted to really talk about that because it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of inner knowing, right? A lot of inner strength to know that, okay, this is okay. This isn't happening to me, but this is happening for me.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like, transitioning out of this known sense of reality, of safety and security, air quote, right? Like, what is security? It doesn't need to be this concept that society created for us, but we get to decondition these realities and create what security means for us. And you've really done that. And I know that's been the catalyst to your work, right? So would love for you to share about that process and what that looked like for you.
I think that everyone gets to a point when you start to feel in tune with the nudges of your intuition, like when it really starts speaking to you, that's one thing, right? But it's another thing to follow that. And I think that there was a long period of time where I was in resistance, and not just in terms of my career, right? But that I would hear these whispers and I'd be like, it's okay. I can do this. I can work through this. Everything's fine. But they just get louder and they get louder. And I think that at a certain point, everyone will experience this where they get so loud that you literally have no choice. Mm-hmm. And the fear doesn't go away, but it's a matter of doing it scared and trusting. And I think that's where the inner power comes in, where you have so much faith in yourself and in the process and in your intuition that the faith is the thing carrying you through, even when it's scary. Because, I had a friend that once said, like, aren't you scared? And I said, every day I have to move through fear. And the more that you start doing that, like any practice, the more able you're able, your nervous system doesn't get as triggered, right? The more that we do this, the more baby steps that we can then show up and do them in the more expansive parts of our life. And I remember, I was in a career working at one of the best architecture firms in the country. And the nudges were getting so loud that I needed to leave, that one day, I put in my notice and my boss looked at me and she said, and I loved my boss, I loved all my coworkers, right? And she said, that you are turning down this opportunity. You have the opportunity to work on the biggest projects in the world. And there was a deep, everything in my body was like, I don't want that. And that's how I knew, right? That was like validation of like, no matter what happens to me, even if I end up as a barista tomorrow, I'm okay with that because I know I don't want this. And so I left, right? And knowing full-heartedly that I'm in a period of transition, but where I'm going is exactly where I'm supposed to go. That is what carries me through. And I think a lot of people stay in relationships and jobs and places because there is a fear of leaving, or who's to say this little whisper is going to actually be real and true, right? Mm-hmm. Who's to say? But we'll never know unless we explore it. And the thing is those whispers are always true, no matter what. Like, it's always your gut feeling. It's like, it's there for a reason. And I think that we're really learning how to come back to that.
The remembrance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How have you? Because I know you've done it, and that's the best, you in our conversation before, just about your work, and so much of your work has really been through your own inner knowing and your experience through your ancestors channeling these conversations and these inner wisdoms, right? And so much of sharpening your intuition and so much of trusting your intuition is a practice.
Yeah.
So what has that look like for you? Like, what things do you do to sharpen your intuition and to just allow it?
Yeah, it's true. It is a practice, right? The more that you use it, the stronger it gets, and the more you feel you can trust it. Ever since I was a kid, I think that I would consider myself an energy sensitive, where I would walk into a room and just feel things. You can feel if things are off, or you can feel the energy. And that's actually part of why I did become an interior designer, was because the spaces around me, I felt their influence so much. I was like, I think I can change the way things feel just by manipulating the space, right? So since I was a child, I always kind of felt intuitive, but I didn't necessarily know how to explain it, which I think many of us relate to.
Yeah.
It's like this language that we haven't been taught how to connect with. And I think that there was a part of me that almost wanted to pull away from that side of myself, right? So I think it was on this journey of self-discovery where at one point in my life, I became so removed from my inner knowing, so removed from my self-worth that I hit this point, as many might call like a rock bottom, right? And I was like, you know what? If I continue the way I'm continuing, like I'm going to die. And so it got to this point where I was started, I went to see doctors. I was having terrible anxiety because I was an energy sensitive and didn't realize it. I wasn't following my intuition or my heart. I wasn't connected to myself. And the anxiety was all consuming. I was having panic attacks. I was having physical debilitating pain. I started to see doctors and therapists, and they wanted to prescribe medication, which there's nothing wrong with medication, but I knew it wasn't my path. And I have this memory of asking this doctor. I said, because I was having trouble breathing, and they diagnosed me with asthma. And I said, could this be related to anxiety? And I remember he turned around with a prescription and he looked at me and he said, I don't know. And he walked out the door. So I started working. After that, I was like, this doesn't feel right. This is just something doesn't feel right about this. I don't feel heard. I don't feel listened to. So I started working with healers. And that's really where this connection to my intuition started coming through. I started working with energy workers and body workers. And I remember it. I was laying on the table and the energy worker, she said to me, Chelsea, your soul doesn't have enough room in your body. And it was that moment. I saw it. I felt it. And it was this real moment of like, whoa, she's right. My soul, I feel so disconnected from it. How do I come back to myself? So that's where I started dancing again. That's when I started free writing and channeling. I felt this overwhelming sense to come back to, like who am I? Right? And when I started channeling and free writing and dancing, it started opening me up even more. And I did. I started having more of these like spiritual experiences, and I started working that muscle, that intuitive muscle that I think for many people, they don't even realize it's happening, right? And the more that I started using that muscle, the connection got stronger. So I think, our sixth sense is real, but I think that it's just a matter of remembering and trusting it, because it's subtle and it comes in many shapes and sizes and forms. It's different for everybody. And from there, I just connecting to it every single day. Yeah, that's really how now it's just a part of me.
Not that now you can almost not think about it, right? It's just innate. Yeah.
Yeah. I also, water too is a big one for me. Whenever I'm in or around water, I feel the most connected and information just pours through.
Yes. I resonate with that deeply. Yeah. Even just walking in the rain, right? Living in the Pacific Northwest, we're so lucky to live in that kind of environment because we do have so much access, and water holds information. Yeah. I'm not sure about you, but I'm noticing so many similarities in what your medicine and modalities that, help alchemize your own human experience, like dancing and writing. And it's really fun to see a mirror and a sister that has similar things that call to them. And water. Are showers a big one for you? Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, don't you wish you had like a journal sometimes in the shower? You're like, wait, what? But then you just have to receive. You're like, okay, I'll just let this happen inside me and it can just be.
Yes.
But
yes, exactly. It's true. I actually have so many voice memos on my phone where you can hear the shower running in the background. because I think, people talk about this who maybe don't consider themselves intuitive, but they'll say, oh, I got a shower thought or had this download in the shower. And it's like, that's what it is. That's, that's the sixth sense that we're talking about. But,
so good. I'm glad that you said that, because I think it's helpful for people to have that tangible, like, oh, you know what I mean? Like that tangible reality that, oh, maybe that's what that is.
yes.
Yeah.
And
not to potentially question themselves the next time they hear that inner voice and that intuition coming through, that sixth sense trying to communicate with them.
Exactly.
In the shower.
Exactly. In the shower. Yeah. Or that feeling when you walk into a room and you're like, I don't know, I just kind of feel uncomfortable in this space. This person near me seems like they might be feeling uncomfortable. Am I picking up on that? Right. And even just, we all have that subtle awareness or body language or things. Right. And I actually have been developing my intuition through certifications and classes. Right. So I might be different in terms of like being able to fine tune the real nuance pieces of information that I receive. But everybody receives this information, but it's a matter of really like trusting it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. The trust is the biggest part. And that's a dance. That in itself is a dance. Trusting ourselves when we haven't necessarily been given those tools unless we've sought them out, or unless our families, by some incredible way, gave that to us. But most of us that are from this generation, it's not something that we were taught in school. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, these were not the things, like you think of tribes and you think of children sitting around a campfire with stories and learning dance medicine and music medicine and these things. These were not the things that were passed on to us as children. So now we get to recreate this sense of identity of walking in this new old way.
I know, exactly. That's the thing is, I think I like to call it like remembering, right? Because it's true. I think that we're really at a pivotal time. I believe that a lot of us here are change makers, and it's about finding the courage to really step into that part of ourselves, whether that's in our own life, our communities, or on a grander scale. And I think that we're at a point in time where it's like we get to rewrite the story, and how do we want that story to be written. And it's going to take a level of courage. It's going to take this level of vulnerability because we're doing things different. And that is why this inner power, or this work around alchemy, is so important and so needed at this time. I truly believe that, our inner world is the basis for our outer world. And when we feel whole and empowered within ourselves, not to say that it might ebb and flow some days, right? We are all human. We're all figuring this out. But when you can always kind of come back to that center, and from there, it ripples out into all aspects of our life. So when we make choices from this empowered state, and it ripples out, and then you never know who you'll meet. And then it will also impact them, and then they will ripple out, and I'm seeing it fractal, and it fractals, and it fractals, infinity, right? So like we are planting seeds, and we are really some of the first generations to really create forward moving change. And I don't know how many lifetimes it will take, right, for real change to be seen. Maybe in our lifetime. I think we're already seeing it, but it's true. Yeah.
And how lucky are we? Like, we are so lucky. I can only speak for myself, that looking at my grandmother and looking at even my mom, my mother and my father, they have a tendency to be resistant to change, but they also are willing to see it in their children and the generations that come after. And it's just this beautiful push and pull of learning in the midst of the discomfort, and how we can stay open in conversation and not judge people even where they're at. Right. It's again, it's the dance. It's the constant dance. That is life. And so it is. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I just heard like we're all a piece of a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're each this big puzzle, but we're all an individual piece. And each of our pieces needed to
So
complete
good.
this puzzle.
So good.
And I think that we are moving away from a society where it tells us to be a certain way, and we might not feel as able to express ourselves fully and do what we came here to do and be who we came here to be. And I think that is where we're moving into. And it's true. It's like we will ruffle some feathers along the way. And our family, like my family, my grandma calls me and is like, "Are you aware? What are you doing now? What's going on?" And it's true. It's like sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I could just do it this certain way, this linear way that I've been told, but I can't. And that's why we're here. So just remembering that it's all part of this greater plan than I think we can even imagine. So it's like the more of us that step into that part of ourselves, the truest part of ourselves, the more that we'll empower others to feel safe to do so.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We get to be the mirrors, right? To let the quirks come out and to let the strange, the weird, the funky, the freak, all of it. Like we get to be it all, and just to allow it and to give us the space, and then just to have love and compassion and grace at the forefront for each and every person that we get to meet, to potentially open that gateway for them to do the same for themselves, because that's what it is. It's this beautiful exchange. And how great for us to have that invitation, and to potentially, if you get to impact one person to be more themselves so that they can live their dharmic path. Ooh, what a gift that is, right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that because like I don't know if we would be here today without people around us that influenced us, right? Everyone's planting the seeds.
So true.
Yeah.
I would love for you to just, take the time to share what kind of work you're doing, and then just, share where people can find you, and how they can work with you, and what offerings you are offering to lean into this potential of inner alchemy and all of that.
Yeah, so the best way to find me is through my Instagram at Amara Ritual, Amara.ritual. And that's where I'll post most of my upcoming offerings. I also use it as like a really creative space. It's like my creative outlet as well. So that's a good way to keep up to date on what I'm doing. And 2023 is like this fresh start for me, where I am going to be birthing all these new offerings and really like asking, okay, what's needed at this time? Like what wants to come through me, right? It's not about me, it's about what's needed, right? And so I will be offering one-on-one support and mentorship. I will be also doing classes, and I have 2 retreats that I'll be co-facilitating this year. There's one in June that is all about co-creation, like becoming the co-creator of your life, and how to really step into that part of ourselves and feel empowered in that. And that I'm really excited about, and I'll be promoting and posting more about that. That's happening in June. And lastly, which I'm really excited about, I'm also going to be doing a video blog where I'll be sharing just quick insights of what's coming through and for the collective, and a lot of my experiences that I think would help others as well. So that's a project that I'm really excited about that I'll be starting this year.
I love that.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for you.
thanks.
That's going to be a beautiful form of expression for
Mm.
you. And I definitely feel that and see that for you.
Yeah.
So grateful for this time. So grateful for your energy and all that you pour into yourself so that it can flow on to others, and just for honoring what spirit has to speak and move through you with integrity. So
You
I
as
see that
well.
in you, and I just want to honor that.
You as well. Same.
Mm, mm. So beautiful. Thank you so much for this
Thank you.
time and for this conversation. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. This was great.
Yeah, yeah. All the
All
love.
the love.
Mm. Hey there, it's Danae again. Just wanted to say thank you for sharing your time and energy with me. If this podcast resonates, please like, subscribe, follow, and share if you're willing. Reviews help too, so if you're feeling the vibe, please leave a review where you can. Sending all the love. Peace.